Anchorage. Anchorage is in south-central Alaska, at the terminus of the Cook Inlet, on a peninsula formed by the Nick Arm to the north and the Turnagain Arm to the south. The city limits span 1,961.1 square miles, encompassing the urban core, a joint military base, several outlying communities and almost all of Chugach State Park. Due to its location, almost equidistant from New York City and Tokyo, Anchorage lies within 9.5 hours by air of nearly 90% of the industrialized world. For this reason, Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport is a common refueling stop for international cargo flights and home to a major FedEx hub, which the company calls a critical part of its global network of services. Anchorage has won the All-America City Award 4 times. In 1956, 1965, 1984-85, and 2002, from the National Civic League. Kiplinger has named it the United States' most tax-friendly city. Russian presence in south-central Alaska was well established in the 19th century. In 1867, U.S. Secretary of State William H. Seward brokered a deal to purchase Alaska from Imperial Russia for $7.2 million, or about 2 cents an acre. His political rivals lampooned the deal as Seward's folly, Seward's icebox, and War Russia. In 1888, gold was discovered along Turnagain Arm just south of modern-day Anchorage. Alaska became an organized incorporated United States territory in 1912. Anchorage, unlike every other large town in Alaska south of the Brooks Range, was neither a fishing nor mining camp. The area surrounding Anchorage lacks significant economic metal minerals. A number of denaying settlements existed along Nick Arm for years. By 1911, the families of J. D. Bud, Whitney and Jim St. Clair lived at the mouth of Ship Creek and were joined there by a young forest ranger, Jack Brown, and his bride, Nellie. In 1912, the city grew from its happenstance choice as the site. In 1914, under the direction of Frederick Mears, of a railroad construction port for the Alaska Engineering Commission, the area near the mouth of Ship Creek, where the railroad headquarters was, quickly became a tent city. A town site was mapped out on higher ground to the south of the tent city, greatly noted in the years since for its order and rigidity compared with other Alaska town sites. In 1915, Territorial Governor John Franklin Alexander Strong encouraged residents to change the city's name to one that had more significance in local associations. In the summer of that year, residents held a vote to change the city's name. A plurality of residents favored changing the city's name to Alaska City. However, the territorial government ultimately declined to change the city's name. Anchorage was incorporated on November 23, 1920. Construction of the Alaska Railroad continued until its completion in 1923. The city's economy in the 1920s and 1930s centered on the railroad. Carl Otto F. Olsson, the Swedish-born general manager of the railroad for nearly 2 decades, became a symbol of residents' contempt due to the firm control he maintained over the railroad's affairs, which by extension became control over economic and other aspects of life in Alaska. Between the 1930s and the 1950s, The city experienced massive growth as air transportation and the military became increasingly important. Aviation operations in Anchorage commenced along the firebreak south of town, which residents also used as a golf course. An increase in air traffic led to clearing of a site directly east of town site boundaries starting in 1929. This became Merrill Field, which served as Anchorage's primary airport during the 1930s and 1940s, until Anchorage International Airport replaced it in 1951. However, Merrill Field still sees a significant amount of general aviation traffic. Elmendorf Air Force Base and the United States Army's Fort Richardson were constructed in the 1940s and served as the city's primary economic engine until the 1968 Prudhoe Bay discovery shifted the thrust of the economy toward the oil industry. The 2005 base realignment and closure process led to the combining of the two bases to form Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. The Good Friday earthquake of March 27, 1964, hit Anchorage hard at a magnitude of 9.2, killing 115 people and causing $116 million in damages. The earth-shaking event lasted nearly 5 minutes. Most structures that failed remained intact for the first few minutes, then failed with repeated flexing. It was the world's second largest earthquake in recorded history. Broadcaster Jeannie Chance has been credited with holding Anchorage together, as she immediately rushed to the Anchorage Public Safety Building and stayed on the Kenny airwaves for almost 24 continuous hours. Chance, effectively designated as the public safety officer by the city's police chief, was instrumental in Anchorage's relief and recovery efforts as she coordinated response efforts, connected urgent needs with available resources, disseminated information of